Most gardeners are told that the only way to bring worms into the soil is to load up the beds with compost. While compost is excellent, it takes time, space, and effort to make, and sometimes you need worms fast. If the goal is to fill the soil with thousands of living tillers and decomposers in just days, there are two things far more powerful than ordinary compost. When used correctly, these two natural materials not only attract worms, but also keep them thriving, multiplying, and working for you long after the first application. Earthworms are drawn to food that breaks down fast and creates a moist zone. Worms follow scent trails of decaying organic matter. They move towards soft, wet food that ferments quickly, since this produces bacteria and fungi they can graze on. Dry leaves or woody chips won't bring them in quickly because those materials take too long to soften. If the goal is to call worms into dead soil, the materials need to break down within days and provide moisture at the same time. This is where two specific ingredients, rotting brassica scraps and soaked oatmeal, work better than almost anything else. Rotting cabbage, kale, and other brassica scraps are a worm magnet. One of the strongest signals for worms is the smell of rotting cabbage and other members of the brassica family. When cabbage leaves, kale stems, or broccoli stalks begin to break down, they release sulfur-rich compounds that act like a beacon underground. To people, the smell can be sharp, but to earthworms, it means an easy buffet of microbes. When placed just beneath the soil surface, even a small amount can draw worms from several feet away. So, a practical method is to take a handful of outer cabbage leaves or kale stems, soak them in water overnight, and then bury them about 2 to 3 inches deep in the soil. Within 48 hours, worms will begin clustering in that pocket. In heavier soils, digging a small trench and layering cabbage scraps along the bottom before covering lightly with soil really speeds up the attraction. And in sandy beds, keeping the scraps together under a mulch layer prevents them from drying out. The key here is not to overload the soil. Too much cabbage at once can turn slimy and anaerobic, which makes the soil sour. A ratio of about 1 pound of cabbage scraps per 2 square feet of bed is enough to attract worms without overwhelming the soil biology. Repeat this every 10 days, and the worm population steadily increases. Gardeners who've tried this in depleted beds report seeing worm casts on the surface within a week, proof that the soil is being worked from below. Plain oatmeal, soaked and softened, really builds worm colonies fast. The second powerful attractant is something almost every kitchen has: plain oatmeal. Unlike bran or flour, which can cake and sour, oatmeal absorbs water slowly and breaks down at a pace worms love. When soaked in water overnight, oatmeal turns into a soft slurry that is just irresistible to earthworms. It ferments just enough to generate microbial activity, but not so fast that it rots into a foul mess. The easiest way to use it is to mix 1 cup of dry oatmeal into a quart of water, let it soften, and then pour the mixture into shallow trenches or holes around the garden bed. Cover with a thin layer of soil or mulch to keep flies away. Within days, worms will gather in those spots and begin burrowing deeper as they feed. For larger plots, about 2 pounds of oatmeal soaked and distributed across 10 square feet of soil is a strong start. Gardeners who maintain worm-rich compost bins often notice that oatmeal is devoured faster than almost any other kitchen scrap. In open soil, the effect is even stronger because it creates moist microhabitats that worms can both feed and breed in. Unlike cabbage, which is better used in pulses, oatmeal can be applied weekly without upsetting the soil balance. The real breakthrough comes when both materials are used together. A layer of chopped cabbage leaves placed at the bottom of a shallow trench, followed by a pour of oatmeal slurry over the top, creates a double signal that worms cannot resist. The cabbage releases strong odor compounds while the oatmeal provides immediate soft food. The combination works as a 2-stage lure. The cabbage pulls the worms in, and the oatmeal keeps them there. So, An effective ratio is about half a pound of cabbage scraps topped with 1 cup of soaked oatmeal per square foot of soil. Then you just cover it all with a few inches of soil and mulch, water it lightly, and well, step back. By the end of a week, the soil beneath these zones will be crawling with earthworms. Farmers working with heavy clay soils have actually used this method to break up compacted ground, since the worms churn through the mixture and open up air channels deeper into the subsoil. Worms multiply fastest when food is steady but not overwhelming. It's really tempting to keep dumping food once worms arrive, but honestly, the best long-term strategy is moderation. Earthworms feed alongside microbes, and both of them need oxygen. Overloading one area with wet scraps can actually create anaerobic pockets that repel worms rather than attract them. A steady rhythm of feeding every 7 to 10 days is ideal, and each time just shift the feeding zone slightly, so the worms spread throughout the bed rather than clustering in one pocket. As worms multiply, their castings enrich the soil with stable humus, and their tunnels improve water infiltration. Within a season, beds that once seemed lifeless become crumbly, dark, and easy to work. Plants respond with stronger root systems and better yields because they can tap into the improved structure. Attracting earthworms doesn't require complicated composting systems or years of waiting. By using simple kitchen scraps like rotting cabbage and a staple like oatmeal, gardeners can create worm-rich soil in a matter of days. These two ingredients act as natural beacons, pulling worms into even the most tired beds and setting the stage for long-term fertility. Whether working with raised beds, heavy clay, or sandy plots, this method is fast, inexpensive, and proven. If you found this guide valuable and want more practical soil revival techniques that work in real gardens, make sure to subscribe to Hydro Haven and share this with fellow growers. The more worms we bring back to our soils, the more alive and productive our gardens will be.